April 14th, 1912. It is 11:39 p.m. You are standing on the deck of the largest ship ever built, a marvel of engineering. The air is freezing against your skin, and the ocean is perfectly, eerily calm. Then, out of nowhere, you feel a strange vibration beneath your feet. People around you barely react. They continue their conversations and laughter. But in less than 3 hours, more than 1,500 people will be dead. And whether you survive depends on the decisions you are about to make right now. Your life on the Titanic. The clock is ticking, and history is about to change forever. At the time, Titanic was not just a ship, it was a floating city of unparalleled luxury. People called it unsinkable, a testament to human progress. And as you step aboard, you believe it too. You see the massive dining rooms where the finest meals are served, the iconic grand staircase, and the opulent cabins reserved for the world's elite. Down below, the massive engine room hums with incredible power, driving the giant vessel forward. Wealthy passengers stroll the decks, confident and happy. There is an incredible excitement in the air as you prepare to cross the Atlantic on this maiden voyage. You feel completely safe, surrounded by thousands of tons of steel and modern luxury. You are on the greatest ship ever built, and nothing can go wrong. Throughout the day, the radio operators receive warning after warning from other ships in the area. Ice ahead. Lots of ice ahead. Dangerous ice ahead. But the Titanic keeps moving at a high speed through the dark water. The ocean is so calm that there are no waves breaking against the icebergs to give them away. Suddenly, you hear shouting from the crow's nest. Crew members rush past you in a blur. Then, a scraping sound vibrates through the hull. It is not a crash, and it is not an explosion. It is just a long, sickening grinding noise along the starboard side of the ship. Below the waterline, the iceberg has sliced through the steel. Water begins entering the front compartments with unstoppable force. The engineers below struggle as the boilers hiss and the cold Atlantic floods the belly of the ship. That is when the ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, looks at the blueprints, does the math, and realizes something horrifying. Titanic is going to sink. There is no way to stop it. The problem is, for a long time, Titanic does not look like a ship that is sinking. The lights are still burning bright, illuminating the night. The band is still playing cheerful tunes on the deck. In the lounges, drinks are still being served to passengers who think the evacuation is just a precaution. And that is exactly why so many people choose to stay aboard where it is warm instead of getting into a tiny boat. But slowly, the tilt of the deck becomes impossible to ignore. The water rises higher and higher. Panic finally sets in. Lifeboats are lowered, but many are half empty because people were too afraid to leave. Families are being separated in the chaos, with fathers saying goodbye to their children. The crew tries to maintain order, but the sheer number of people and the lack of boats makes the situation impossible to manage. The bow of the ship begins to disappear into the black ocean. Water rushes below deck, flooding the hallways and trapping those left behind. People begin running toward the stern, desperate for a few more minutes of life. Some jump into the freezing water. Some stay behind to pray. Some simply freeze in terror as the reality of the situation finally hits them. The dream has become a nightmare. Then, the unthinkable happens. The great ship groans under the immense pressure, and the lights flicker and finally go out, plunging everyone into total darkness. The Titanic, unable to withstand the weight of the water, breaks apart in a deafening roar of twisting metal. For a brief, haunting moment, everything is silent except for the sound of the ocean. And then, the remains of the Titanic disappear forever beneath the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. You're left in the middle of the freezing sea, miles from land, in a darkness so deep you cannot see your own hand. The silence is soon replaced by the cries of those in the water, but as the minutes pass, even those sounds begin to fade away into the cold night. The world's greatest ship is gone, and the ocean is once again perfectly calm, as if nothing had happened at all. So, the question remains, would you have survived that night? Your fate was largely determined before the iceberg even hit. If you were a woman in first class, you had a 97% chance of survival. But for men in the same class, that number dropped to only 33%. If you were a passenger in third class, the odds were stacked against you from the start. Only 24% of steerage passengers made it home. For children, the tragedy was even more stark. While almost every child in first and second class was saved, dozens of children in third class were lost to the sea. Your survival depended on where you slept, how much money you had, and the social rules of the time. Think about where you would have been standing on that deck. Would you have been one of the lucky few in a lifeboat, or would you have been left behind in the dark? Of the roughly 2,200 people who boarded the Titanic with dreams of a new life or a grand adventure, more than 1,500 never made it home. Many of them believed with all their hearts that they were boarding the safest ship ever built by human hands. Instead, through a series of small mistakes and bad luck, they became part of one of history's most famous and heartbreaking disasters. Their stories remind us that even the greatest machines are no match for the power of nature and the unpredictability of fate.